Welcome to Ingles con Juan, the channel that prepares you for English as it really sounds, not as it sounds in textbooks. Here, we don't give you slow, perfectly scripted conversations that nobody actually has in real life. We give you real situations, real pressure, and real strategies to help you listen, understand, and move forward, even when English feels overwhelming. Every story on this channel is designed to train your ear, expand your vocabulary, and remind you that the struggle you're feeling right now is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you are learning something real. Today's story is about a university classroom, a fast-talking professor, and one student who discovers the most important difference in all of language learning, the difference between understanding recorded English and understanding live English. Let's begin. It's 8:47 in the morning on a Tuesday in September. Sofia has her laptop open, her notebook ready, 2 freshly sharpened pencils, and a green highlighter she has never actually used because she is too nervous to decide what deserves to be highlighted. She is sitting in the 3rd row of a university lecture hall in Canada, and in exactly 13 minutes, her first real academic class in English will begin. Sofia has been studying English for 8 years. She passed her language proficiency exam with a strong score. She can read academic articles, write research essays, and hold conversations about complex topics. She prepared for this moment by watching university lectures on YouTube, by reading the course syllabus twice, and by reviewing the professor's previous papers online so she would be familiar with the terminology. By every measurable standard, Sofia is ready. And yet, as other students fill the seats around her, she feels something she has not felt in years. The particular fear of someone who has studied something for a long time and is about to find out whether any of it actually works outside of a controlled environment. If you have ever felt that exact combination of preparation and panic, you already understand Sofia's morning. Hit that like button and subscribe to Ingles con Juan because what she is about to discover will change how you think about English listening forever. The professor walks in without hesitation and begins speaking before he reaches the front of the room. He does not introduce himself at length. He does not ask how everyone is doing. He picks up exactly where the last semester's group left off, as if the summer never happened, as if this is a continuation of an ongoing conversation and the students have simply been away for a weekend. His English is fast. Not rude, not unclear, just fast. The natural speed of a person who thinks in this language, whose brain does not pause to select vocabulary or check grammar, whose sentences connect to the next sentences without the slight hesitation that Sofia has learned to depend on as a signal to process what she just heard. Sofia starts typing. Her plan was to take notes while listening, to multitask the way she imagined university students do. But within the first 4 minutes, she discovers that typing and listening at the same time requires a mental bandwidth she has not yet developed in English. In Spanish, she can do it effortlessly. Her native language operates in the background, freeing her attention for thinking and writing. But English still requires conscious processing. Every sentence demands a fraction more attention than her native language, and that fraction, multiplied over 45 minutes of continuous academic speech, turns into a wall of exhaustion. The professor introduces the central argument of the course. He uses a phrase Sofia has not encountered. The epistemological framework underpinning. She catches framework and underpinning separately, but their combination creates a concept her brain cannot instantly assemble. She writes the phrase down phonetically, incorrectly, because she is still processing the previous sentence and no longer has full attention for the new one. The professor continues. He gives an example from a study conducted in the 1970s. He mentions a researcher's name, a long German surname, and a university Sofia does not recognize. Then he says, in other words, and explains the same concept more simply. Sofia's notes now contain 2 versions of the same idea. One she didn't fully understand, and one she did. She doesn't yet realize that this pattern, complex idea followed by simpler restatement, is one of the most important patterns in academic English. The professor asks a question. So what does this tell us about causality? He looks around the room. Several students write something. Sofia freezes, unsure whether this is a question she is supposed to answer out loud, think about silently, or write down. The professor answers his own question before anyone speaks. Sofia exhales. She marks it in her notebook. Rhetorical question. Don't wait for answer. This is her first useful lesson of the morning, and she hasn't learned it from a textbook. At the 40-minute mark, Sofia realizes something that changes her entire understanding of her own English skills. She has been recording the lecture on her phone, a habit she developed from advice she found online. The recording is running perfectly. Every word the professor says is being captured in clean audio. And Sofia understands almost none of it in real time. Not because her English is bad, but because recorded English and live English are processed differently by the brain. When you listen to a recording, you have control. You can pause, rewind, replay a sentence 3 times, look up a word in the middle of a clause, and return to the audio with fresh understanding. The information waits for you. The recording has no agenda. It exists only to be understood. Live English does not wait. A professor speaking in real time does not pause for vocabulary gaps. The lecture continues whether Sofia's brain has processed the last sentence or not. New information arrives on top of unprocessed information, and when that happens repeatedly, the brain starts dropping things, not randomly but based on what it calculates as lower priority, which is often exactly the wrong things. Sofia realizes she has been preparing for the wrong version of academic English. All her YouTube lectures were listened to with a pause button nearby. All her practice was controlled. She trained for a race but on a treadmill. Same motion, completely different conditions. This is not a failure of preparation. This is the reality of language development that nobody clearly explains before you arrive. And if this realization sounds familiar to you right now, please subscribe to Ingles con Juan. This channel exists specifically to close that gap. The gap between controlled English and real English, between the pause button and the live classroom. After class, Sofia sits in the university library for 2 hours with her recording and her incomplete notes. And this is where her real education begins. Not during the lecture, when she was overwhelmed, but after it, when she can finally apply what she learned about her own limitations. She develops a strategy she will use for the rest of her academic career. She calls it catching the signpost words, although she doesn't know that educators have a formal name for it. The idea is simple. In academic English, professors almost always announce what they are about to say before they say it. They use specific words, signpost words, that signal what kind of information is coming next. When the professor says the main point is, what follows is the central idea, the most important thing in that section. When he says, for example, or to illustrate this, what follows is an example which is helpful for understanding but not the core information. When he says in contrast or on the other hand, the next sentence will oppose or qualify the previous one. When he says to summarize or in conclusion, he is about to repeat the essential argument in compressed form, essentially offering a second chance to capture what came before. Sofia listens to her recording with this lens. She stops trying to transcribe everything and starts only noting what comes after the signpost words. Her notes transform from a chaotic string of incomplete sentences into a structured outline of actual ideas. She also notices something she missed during the lecture itself. The professor's voice changes slightly when he shifts from main content to examples. The pace slows marginally. The pitch drops. These are acoustic signals, not dramatic but consistent. After 2 hours of listening with this awareness, she begins to hear them. She goes back to the moment she did not understand, the epistemological framework underpinning. She replays it. With the context of everything that followed, and with the ability to pause and think, she understands it completely. It refers to the set of assumptions about knowledge that forms the foundation of a theoretical approach. The professor explained this 3 different ways during the lecture. She missed all 3 in real time. She catches all 3 on the recording. The next class is in 3 days. Sofia goes in with a different goal. She is not trying to understand everything. She is not trying to write everything down. She is trying to catch the signpost words, note what follows them, and trust that the recording will preserve what her live processing cannot yet handle. The second class feels completely different. Not easier, but navigable. She misses vocabulary. She loses entire sentences when the professor speaks quickly through a technical list, but she catches the main point, she catches the examples when they are labeled, and she catches the summary at the end. Her notes are shorter than before, they are also more accurate. By the 4th week, Sofia is spending 30% less time reviewing recordings because her real-time comprehension has improved. Not because she studied more grammar, not because she memorized more vocabulary, but because she trained herself to listen differently. She stopped trying to process English the way she processes a written text, word by word, sentence by sentence, with complete understanding before moving forward. She started processing it the way fluent listeners do, in chunks of meaning, guided by structure, tolerant of momentary gaps, trusting that context will fill in what precision cannot. By the end of the semester, Sofia presents a group project entirely in English in front of the class. The professor comments that her analysis shows strong independent thinking and clear academic reasoning. He does not comment on her accent. He does not mention her grammar. He responds to her ideas because her ideas are what she communicated. She reflects on the semester and identifies the exact moment where her listening stopped being a source of anxiety and started becoming a skill. It was not a single dramatic breakthrough. It was a gradual adjustment, built over weeks of deliberate practice, honest assessment of her own gaps, and specific strategies applied consistently. The most important thing she learned was not a grammar rule. It was not a vocabulary list. It was a truth about language development that applies to every learner at every level. The environment where you practice determines the skill you develop. If you only ever practice with a pause button, you will become excellent at pausing. If you practice with live, uncontrolled English, even when it overwhelms you, you will develop the neural pathways for real listening. This does not mean throwing yourself into impossible situations without preparation. It means gradually, intentionally, and courageously increasing your exposure to English that doesn't wait for you. Podcasts at full speed, movies without subtitles for 10 minutes before turning them on, conversations where you cannot ask for the replay button, lectures where the information keeps moving. Every time you sit with discomfort in English and stay present instead of shutting down, you are building something. Not fluency as a distant destination, but fluency as a practice that happens in the space between confusion and understanding. If Sofia's story resonated with you, if you have ever sat in a classroom, a meeting, or in front of a video thinking your English disappeared exactly when you needed it most, then you already understand why this kind of practice matters. Like this video if it gave you a strategy you can use tomorrow. Subscribe to Ingles con Juan for more listening stories, real strategies, and the honest truth about what it takes to go from studying English to living in English. Your comprehension is not fixed. Your listening is not a talent you either have or don't have. It is a skill being built right now with every minute of real English you choose to face. Keep going. See you in the next story.